That the motion be agreed to, and I call the member for Menzies.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. We all come in here with our talking points and slogans and lines, and we hear them in the speeches, and we just heard a few there, including a wasted decade and $1 trillion of debt.
Liberal debt.
Well, Liberal debt. So, but I think when we come in here and repeat slogans like this, we're not actually acknowledging what's happening in this country, and we're not actually acknowledging the suffering that people are experiencing. And interest rates have risen 9 consecutive times on this government's watch. Now, I'm not going to pretend that that's all of the Labor government's fault, but you are responsible for what we do from here, and people are looking to you to be responsible for what we do from here. So the latest increase has a consequence for real people who are trying to live normal lives. And where I come from, in the seat of Menzies, I'm as close as a federal Liberal gets to the seat of the centre of Melbourne, and it's still a fair distance. It's off on the horizon. But the closer you get to the centre of a city, and the member for Sturt is here too, the more land prices increase. So the more people have to pay to just get a little bit of turf that is Australia. And so they're paying more for their mortgages. So a typical mortgage of $750,000 doesn't get you much as you get closer to the centre of Melbourne. It doesn't get you much as you get close to the centre of Adelaide. But let's take that amount, $750,000. That person, that family, would have to find an extra $1,700 per month, an extra $20,000 a year for a typical family. And that's after tax money. That's after tax money. So whether you're a single or a dual income family, you can't walk into your boss or your employer and say, hey, guess what? I got this bill that's your problem, not my problem. So I want you to pay me now. For me to have $20,000, I want you to give an equivalent before tax rise, which could be $35,000. It's just not going to happen. And we heard the member for Bennelong talk about a wage increase. Well, wage increases mean nothing unless it's a real wage increase. So a wage increase adjusted for inflation, because each time there's inflation, each time there's an increase in interest rates, that is taking away from people's wages. So if, as a government, you are making decisions that are increasing inflation and thereby forcing the hand of the Reserve Bank to increase interest rates, you are taking away from the spending power of families. Now, we heard a lot of invective from the government about the importance of the executive being accountable to the parliament. And there's no more important way than question time. And questions have been put directly to the Prime Minister, and I myself have put, I think, 4 questions. It's the only time I've got to speak to the Prime Minister across that dispatch box. And some of the questions included, can the Prime Minister name a single suburb in Australia where power prices have been reduced? And can the Prime Minister identify a single Australian who is paying less on their electricity bill now than they were 10 months ago? And I can name one person, the Prime Minister. I'm sure the Prime Minister had an electricity bill more than 10 months ago, but I don't think the electricity bill for the Lodge or Kirribilli lands on his personal desk. But again, there was no answers. And again, as a first-term member, we're getting familiar with the standing orders. And the standing orders say that an answer must be directly relevant to the question. Not just relevant, directly relevant. And we don't get not only a directly relevant answer, but an answer that is in any way relevant. And it's not just because the opposition is owed an answer, it's because Australians are owed an answer. Because if you care about the circumstances of Australian families and Australian individuals, you will take those questions seriously and answer them seriously. Questions like, what was the interest rate 10 months ago compared to today? Again, that should be a relatively straightforward question to answer. A directly relevant answer shouldn't be hard, but it was too hard. We asked the Prime Minister if he could identify a single mortgage holder who has seen their interest rate go down in the past 10 months, or a single person whose grocery bill is lower than it was 10 months ago. The Prime Minister might say, I don't have anyone, but I'm going to go find out. I'm going to go speak to Australians and actually show that I care and that I'm listening, because I am responsible and the government is responsible.
The question is,